I think I've done it. Welcome to Crime After Dark headquarters, take 2. My name is Lisa, and I think I'm finally here after technical difficulties. Do you see me and hear me? Yay! My camera was on the wrong setting. Anywho, anywho, uh, I do want to test this. Let's see. I'm going to click on this one. Tell me, do you see this? Do you still see me, or do you just? Hey, Maxie, welcome. Yeah, it's not working. I wanted to share that graphic I made. It's not working. My chat in this other software doesn't work, so I have to go back and forth, and it's frustrating. So, no chat. What is he commenting? No chat. Why is White Tiger commenting no chat? See here, yes, no chat. What? Okay, I can't reply back because I'm busy, obviously. He'll find me again, I think. Anyhow, welcome. So today I am sad. And I'm sad because it's been 6 months. And I'm frustrated because it's been 6 months. Um, not sure how you guys feel. Actually every month I get sad. Today it hit me hard. Um, I know. The first thing literally when I woke up this morning was about Nancy. Like it instantly the first thing. Like as soon as I woke up, I thought, oh, he made it back. Hey, CS. She was the first thing and I was thinking about her last night because last night, was the 31st, and at 9 o'clock, I was like, oh my God, this time 6 months ago, she had no idea what was going to happen. It's okay, White Tiger. Obviously, I get lost all the time. We know this. That is one thing we do know. So, like I said, I thought about her first thing, and I thought about her last night, and I thought about her all day. And then, because I woke up early, had a lot of sleep yesterday, had quite the nap, and then even fell asleep early. So I woke up at like 5. And then I see the post from Savannah on Instagram. Have you all seen the post from Savannah on Instagram? Yeah. Yeah, well, by now she did, but, not last night at this time, she didn't. Girl, I bet I was started this morning, Ashley, and I haven't stopped. Like, every time I think about it. And then I've heard other people talking about it. Um, the part about if you're watching about this for entertainment. Oh, a lot of people feel the same way, Ashley. A lot. A lot of people are pissed off, like me. It pissed me right off. First thing this morning, because she posted that. It was early. I don't know exactly what time, but it was early. Well, I don't know. Now she's in, I think, England, but To say that, if you've been watching this for entertainment or or anything for profit, then you're doing just as much harm. Uh-oh, Joe found me. Joe has Joe's found me. We got all the crunchies in the chat tonight. Actually, a lot of the crunchies are in the chat all the time. Um, so Joe, I'm just talking about how pissed I am at Savannah for her post this morning on Instagram. Um, to say that, people are doing harm, like Maxi Doodle said, let's see who makes money. NBC, Court TV, Savannah, everybody. I am I profiting right now? No, I'm not monetized. I'm not making a damn dime. That isn't why I started, watching about this case. It isn't why it bothered me. 6 months ago when my friend sent me the article and said, "Oh my god, did you know about this?" And I said, "No." Um, and it makes me angry, because I'm sure she directed that, towards YouTubers, of course. The same YouTubers that have been out in Tucson sweating their asses off, either looking for her or like AJW going to, Estevan Park and other places, handing out flyers of Porch Guy, asking people if they recognize him all the time, multiple times a week. Everybody that's been doing everything to try to help, and she's got to shit all over him. I don't understand it. How is that harming Nancy? The harm was done 6 months ago. And I'm not sure what they're doing, because she did mention like, "Well, we're searching." Well, where in the hell are they searching? Does anybody know? Where are they searching and how? That's something I'd like to know. I don't I know she feels grief. I'm not talking, that's not the point of what I'm saying. I'm just tired of the digs, you know. And when I read that, when I read her saying that, I thought, wait a minute, you know, people for profit. When the interview you did with Hoda was released in like 3 segments, didn't your station profit from that? Pretty sure they did. Even journalists are making a profit. Regular journalists. I don't understand exactly, actually, so NBC could make money. I don't understand. I really don't. I mean, it pissed me off. And by the way, you're gonna see me drinking a lot. It's just diet Pepsi, so I don't cough. Much better than I was on my last live. Still got a little bit of a cough. No, it wasn't. It wasn't a nice post. It just it wasn't. So I went from being sad this morning to being pissed off and shocked. Like it It actually shocks me that she says stuff like that. I I I don't understand it, I don't. And someone else said it in another live today when they were discussing this, because there's a lot. I heard people calling in saying how mad they are, and these people aren't even streaming anything. They're calling in to say they're pissed off at what she said. So it's not just YouTubers like that pissed off a lot of people that watch the YouTubers. But even people like Brian Etten, Ashley Banfield, you know, all of these people, all of the regular journalists, they're making money. So, it just really it she did. She insulted a lot of people. The people trying to help. Um and one of the callers said it's not right for her to say that because she doesn't know what's in people's hearts. She doesn't know why people have been following the case. There's no way for her to know that. She doesn't know why I follow it. You know, I've had an interest in true crime for years. I was a victim of a true crime. I had a girl I went to school with that was murdered by her husband. I have personal experience with it. And I have an 89-year-old mother that I am the main caretaker for. So, it, you know, there's many different reasons why people are following this story. A lot of people follow this because, you know, they can't understand who would do this to an 84-year-old woman. I've heard that. I don't know. I've lost count. So there's so many different reasons. Now, on the other side of that, because in the beginning, I really didn't think it would take that long. I guess I was naive. But in the beginning, I didn't know anything about nanos. I didn't know any of that. But she's gonna say that when I remember way back when Ashley and I were losing sleep. Do you remember when we lost sleep because there'd be people on like overnight, 24 hours, and it's like we'd be texting each other like, "Oh, I want to go to sleep, but so and so's on and I want to watch it in case something happens." We were like glued to YouTube. And I thought, "Oh my god, I can't keep," because I was staying up way too late. I mean, it was just crazy. Yeah, you didn't wanna miss it because you thought like, "Oh, well, what if they do another raid?" Or, it's like fear of missing out on them catching, whoever did it. So, for her to say that, it's just pisses me off, just pisses me off. And every time I've thought about it or heard someone else talk about it, pisses me off again. Anywho, so yeah, she may want. I doubt she will though. I doubt she'll take it down. Unbelievable. So anyhow, one of the things that that I've always been certain things fascinate me for whatever reason. Um, Psychology fascinates me. Um, the way people think fascinate me, like, one of the hardest parts when you hear about some story that happened, like in Nancy's case, or, any other case of, murder or whatever, regardless of what it is, you think to yourself, like, "How could they do that?" And their brain works differently. And because it's something that we would never do, we can't understand why they did it because you don't think that way. But it's always fascinated me, like, I don't know, sometimes weird things fascinate me. And the way that my mind works, I'm a very curious person. Um, I'm also an overthinker. Um, Maybe because I'm prone to anxiety, because I'm a very emotional person by nature. I've been that way since I was a little kid. Um, and I get sucked into the details. It's a mixture of the details and why did that happen? Or who did this? Or why did they do this? Um, I guess by nature, I'm a very White Tiger always he li I'll get comments on my videos or whatever, like, "Your attention to detail is top tier." Maybe it's because I was a hairstylist for 14 years, I don't know. You have to, pay attention. I clean houses, something else you gotta pay, you're paying attention to, like, multiple different things when you clean house for somebody else. I've been a dog groomer, I'm artistic, the whole whatever the reason is. And something will get in my head, and it's like I can't get it out. It's like watching a show or a movie, and you're like, "I know who is that actor? Like, what other show were they in?" You know their face, but you can't remember exactly. And it will drive me nuts, like, I'm Googling, who is it? Trying to find out. It's like I can't rest. There's no peace until I know, and then once I know, I'm like, "Okay, now I'm better now." So, anyway, I've always had an interest in the psychological aspect of the whole, of a mystery of something that's happened to somebody. And I think that's a big reason why so many people are interested in what happened to Nancy, because you know, you don't hear about 84-year-old women vanishing or being kidnapped or abducted. It's not something that you hear about, like, ever, you know? You'll hear about them, if someone has Alzheimer's and they do walk away, and it is a walk away situation, but you don't hear about someone took an 84-year-old woman. Um, and I think that's a big part of the curiosity with this case. Maybe you should think about that, Savannah. You're right. I don't So anyway, because I'm always so fascinated by the psychology part of this, we're gonna look at the ransom notes, and I'm sure that you've all seen the ransom notes. You probably heard them talked about multiple times. Um, but I wanna look at the more detailed part of the notes, okay? So, like Miss Courtney, we're gonna be looking at some Chat GPT. Then we'll be looking at some video clips of Ashley's favorite psychologist, Dr. Gary Brucato. 'Cause I know she loves Dr. Gary. Um, as well as, oh my god, as well as what's his name? His name is escaping me this moment for some reason. Um, so let me share. I think you are, Ashley, and I'm the exact opposite. Okay, so now I have to give me a second while I scroll back here to the part that I had it all set up, and then I had to go back because I had to restart the live. Okay. Okay. Jim Clemente, that's his name. I don't know why in that moment I couldn't think of his name. Okay. I've got a hair stuck on my face. Let me make sure I'm in the right. Okay. So we're good. So um before I even show the notes. So and when I do show the notes, I can't see the chat now. When I do show the notes, yeah, Joko, I didn't realize either. Um until who was that? Was that Chris McDonough? They spelled received. Yep. Mhm. I had not looked at them closely anyway. Like I had, watched people reading them and such, but I didn't know that. Um and then just not too long ago I was watching Code Red podcast with Jim Fitzgerald, and they were talking to there was a woman on there. I don't know, I'd never seen the woman before. I can't tell you who I think she might have actually trained him at some point or worked with him, and they were discussing the linguistics of the notes. So that was a bit interesting. The other interesting thing. So Jim Fitzgerald, he was a profiler and a linguistic. And Jim Clemente, profiler, right? They both think, along with the woman that was on Code Red podcast, they all think that the notes were written by the same person. And I was like, wow. I'm I'm kind of shocked. So, yep, I couldn't believe it either. I was like, wow. I knew Jim Clemente felt that way because it's in this clip I'm gonna play um with Brian Etten. That was when I heard him say that, and I was like, "Oh, he thinks it's one person." Kind of shocked me. And then I heard Jim Fitzgerald say it. Oh, and the woman said it too. She agreed with him, and I was like, wow. On the other side of the coin, from the psychologist's point of view, Dr. Gary does not think it is one person. So I find that interesting. The profilers are over here. and the psychologist is over here. Yep, the first 2 notes, Maxie Doodle, and I was like and then it kind of dawned me, "Oh, Ashley, I should I should take a photo of that. I should take a snapshot, a screenshot." I do too. I don't think there's ever a time when Dr. Gary is I think they are, girl. I'm about to be hit by a flying pig. Hell's about to freeze over too. Um, anytime Dr. Gary Brucato is, doing his thing, so to speak, giving his opinion on stuff like that, I'm always like, wow. You know, I don't think I've ever disagreed with him when he's broke down when he did his like assessment of the porch guy and actually the chef and the waiter and the all of that, I was just like fascinated. But see, it's not just the psychology, like he also throws in the stats on, the crimes. It's like a mixture. He uses like a mixture of all these things. And that's fascinating. Where the profilers and the linguistics, I guess they're just going by I don't know. They're just going, I guess, strictly by the language in the notes, and they're not using psychology at all. I don't know. I don't know how that works, honestly. Oh, 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 Joe, I don't know. I don't know now. I don't know if we can be friends now, Joe. Oh my goodness. I call Chris my teacher. I'm learning how to be a junior detective. Well, I am junior detective. Trying to work my way up. I have not done that yet. They're very different though. They do different things. One is, I mean, Chris is a detective and Dr. Gary's, psychologist. See, Ashley's gonna come after you now. But the psychology aspect, like I said, I've always like had an interest in it. Um, I guess because I want to know why these, criminals did what they did. Like, why in the hell did they do that? I don't understand. I watch those shows on the ID channel, Signs of a Psychopath and Evil Lives Here and all the stuff that should give a person nightmares. So anyway, so first, I gotta share my screen. Let me share my screen. And hopefully you'll be able to see it on that end. Okay. Gonna make myself little. Okay, put myself in the corner. Share screen. Okay. Oh, don't tell me it's not gonna share. There's a little bit of a delay, so I want to make sure. Do you see it? Okay. It's not showing up on my YouTube live picture. Okay, so everybody sees Chat GPT. Okay. Well, at least Ashley does anyway. All right. So there's there's gonna be, like, 4 parts here, um, and there's different questions here, okay? So it's the psychology behind the ransom note. So what the notes can tell us and what they can't tell us. So first of all, we need to ask ourselves, why do investigators spend so much time analyzing communications? Why release the notes 6 months later? Well, we know why that happened. We all know why the sheriff's office shared the notes suddenly, don't we? The Ashley, I actually thought about that when I said I was gonna put myself in the corner. Um, so we all know that Sheriff Nanos, he shared the notes because, they were shared on Crime Junkies. Brianna shared them, so he didn't have a choice. Um, exactly, Maxie Doodle. He did it because they had been shared, and then he said, "Well, we wanted to make sure they were shared properly, in their entirety," or whatever the hell it was he said. Um, yeah, that damn Nanos video today. Mm-mm-mm. Um, they should have been shared, and this was something Jim Fitzgerald said this, and actually so did Dr. Gary Brucato the other day, that they should have been shared way back in the beginning. Why weren't they shared back then? I heard Jim Fitzgerald say it today when I was watching him. I heard Dr. Gary Brucato say it the other day when I was watching him. So, because they are evidence. So they're not just letters, they're evidence. So this is why they have these experts to analyze, what the notes say, how they're written, all of that. Because it gives them clues to add into their, when they are profiling a suspect, it gives them clues. Okay. So then we have, oh, part two, ChatGPT is telling me to introduce my experts now. um, so the science behind criminal communications. So then we have our topics: criminal psychology, offender behavior, decision making communication. So Jim Clemente here is, he's the FBI behavioral analysis, the profiler, the criminal profiling, the investigative process. Oh, by the way, before I forget, if any of you saw Juanita Adame's video about Derek Kalalala, oh my god, my YouTube screen is just catching up to when I was started sharing. How bizarre. That is some lag time. Wow. Anyhow, so Juanita did a video about Derek and the notes and the IP address and all of that. If you watch her videos, um, and she was hinting at the fact of, well, maybe he wrote all of them. However, it was pointed out today So now it's possible that he could have written the first one, but it was pointed out today when the second one came out, he was in jail for the first one. So he could not have written the second one unless he got on the internet from jail. He couldn't have done it because he was in jail. He didn't get out until the 6th later in the day. And I did not know that. Like, I didn't, there's so much info that, it's too much info overload. I can't remember who, did what, when, and. But that was pointed out today, and I was like, okay. So he didn't write the second one, that's for sure. And I also believe that, I mean, they said the first two ransom notes came from the same IP address. That leads me to believe that they would know who the hell wrote them. Am I alone in this thinking? Is that far-fetched? If they have the IP address, then why don't they know who wrote them? Or do they know? Because Sheriff Nanos is acting like they don't know. Because when they put those ransom notes out, they also had the little blurb, about the syntax. And if you know someone that, speaks this way, etc., help us find this person. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't understand why they wouldn't already know where they came from. However, a thought did cross my mind. What if someone like went to a library and sent them from a library? Because all they did was use a form on the website at the tip line at KOLD. It's a standard web form, where you fill it out. What if they went somewhere and did it from a public place like a library where you can use a computer for X amount, an hour, whatever it is? Most libraries have that, I'm assuming. If that's the case, well, even then, if it was like a library, then they would know because you would have to use your library card to do that. So that wouldn't work either. Anyhow, the thought crossed my mind, but that makes no sense. So we can scratch that one off. I just feel like they would know who did it. In the very least, like, where are they? What I mean, I feel they're in Tucson. That's my personal opinion. Um, it just seems like they would already know that information. So are they playing, is the sheriff playing some games in regards to this? Is the FBI playing games? I don't, and they said something about it. I don't even remember. When they had the supposed leak about the ransom notes and then they came out and put a statement out. It's been so much that's happened. Nanos is a gamer. I don't know. I've used VPNs before for work things, but I don't know. I don't know. Okay, back to my friend Chat GPT. So, Chat GPT is tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do. So it says to like break it into sections instead of reading the whole thing. And I actually watched Jim Fitzgerald today when he was doing this. Him and the other woman that for the life of me I don't remember her name. They break it into sections. And at the beginning of their live, he literally stated there's this many sentences, there's this many words, right down to like point 3, whatever he said, you know, like broke it down. Um, like, in the first note, hello, Savannah. Why, what was the purpose? And then section B, she is safe but scared. So the purpose of that is reassurance, credibility, manipulation. I find that one interesting. The hello Savannah. And the other thing that was interesting is they went from hello Savannah in the first note, and in the second note it says Guthrie family or the Guthries. Yeah, and they put they put Nancy's name in there. I'm pretty sure she knows her mom's name. Pretty sure she knows her mom's name is Nancy. Um so every word in these notes and the way that they're written says something about the people who wrote the notes. Like today, the woman that was talking to Jim Fitzgerald she was even talking about how they wrote the dates and how they wrote 4 million. They wrote out the number 4 and the word million. Um and how someone writes the date out or the way that they write the date out can tell you something. And this kind of fascinates me also because it does kind of, for me, it ties, well, I don't know, I guess yeah, it did say USD. And every expert I've seen on this said that they basically did that to throw off, you know, to throw off everybody to make everybody think they weren't in the US or something. Um, so the Bitcoin debate, why Bitcoin? Well, I got a big idea on why Bitcoin. Why 2 deadlines? Why increase the amount? None of that stuff makes sense to me. Um, actually, both of the notes in general, neither one makes sense to me because I don't believe them. I don't think they're real. I think they're real. I think the people who wrote them were involved, but I don't think they wanted. I don't think it was about ransom money. Um, because things would have been done differently. Um, it would have been done a lot quicker. They didn't even send these out immediately. Now you would think that if they really wanted money, they would have done it a lot sooner. Hopefully you guys can see this. 'Cause I don't think I can make it any bigger. Hold on. Nope, that was worse. There we go. Oh, I had it, and then I started going the wrong direction. Okay. I'm losing chat. Um, is it better now? Okay. Yeah, it's the right. And by the way, if you didn't hear this, this was some Shanna, not this what I'm showing, these are the actual ransom notes, but Shanna on X discovered that they put these on Facebook, Sheriff's Department, and they put them on there, and the name, oh, you know what? I don't know what the name said for that when I'm gonna have to go back and look at her post. Um, they put it on Facebook and nothing was redacted, like, the email address was in there, the date of birth, which is right here at the bottom, was in there. I don't remember what it said for name. So she posted it on X. I should have saved those. Actually, I think Courtney was talking about those. Was it yesterday? Um, so they realized they screwed up. Oopsie, we didn't redact everything. And then they blacked it out and then they put it on Facebook again. So, you know, like ChatGPT was saying, it starts with "Hello, Savannah." The second one says Guthrie family. Oh, don't even let me highlight on here. Damn it, ChatGPT. Um, so we have your mother, Nancy. She is safe but scared. She will be held for ransom. So all the experts between Jim Fitzgerald and Jim Clemente, they're so the breaking down this sentence, she will be held for ransom. So will be, that's a future tense. That's future. You're talking about the future. Well, no shit, you were already holding her for ransom. Do you know what I mean? It's like she will be held for ransom. Does that mean they wrote this note? Yes, yes, I appreciate all of you for liking, subscribing, commenting. All of you crunchies that hang out with me. Um, so does that mean that they wrote this note in advance? We don't know. We don't know. We don't know. Because it sounds weird. You wouldn't if you already had her, you wouldn't say we will. You would be saying like, "We have her. We're holding her for ransom. We are holding her, not she will be held for ransom." And once payment is received, this one is spelled properly, by the way. I'm on the lookout for the one that isn't spelled properly. Now that it was pointed out. Um, oh, and Chris McDonough, when he was talking to Jesse Weber, he was, how many we's did he count? There was like a ton of the word we. It's like, okay, no pun intended, it's like overkill. You know, it's saying it over and over, to make everybody think that, oh, there's more than one. There's 2 of us, there's 4, there's 10, however many. Because you otherwise you wouldn't say it so much. Um, so we will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days. Like, do ransom notes normally say that? Do they normally tell you? Like, I know they would normally say I don't know if they would say that. It would say, like, "You have 2 days to give us the damn money," you know? But that sounds weird to me. Oh, I lost my place. Oh, here we are. You will need to send Bitcoin in the amount of, and here's what that woman was talking about, the linguistics expert, 4,000,000. See, they put the number 4 in the word million, USD, before 5 p.m. on Thursday the 5th. If payment is not received, the ransom will be increased to 6,000,000 USD, which will need to be paid by 5 p.m. on Monday the 9th. Okay, first of all, the note is exhausting. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much in there, and that was one of the things that I've heard the experts say. It's like such a long note, and there's things in there that are unnecessary. So, it's kind of like when guilty people talk too much and they add in things that are unnecessary. Like if you've ever watched um interviews of certain, like Chris Watts, or someone that just keeps, they're talking too much. Um I know. Asshole. Chris Watts is a asshole. Just he's a psychopath. Yeah, or kids exactly, Maxie, or kids when they're lying. They just start spewing out stuff. Um, because they're guilty. So they're trying to like fix it. They're just saying too much. This note says too much. I mean, really, it's ridiculous. Once payment is received to the Bitcoin address below, she will be released within 12 hours of deposit to a safe drop off location back in Tucson. Now, the 12 hours bugs me. It's like when I first heard this, I was like, why? Where'd they get 12 hours from? Are they saying 12 hours because they're lumping it in there with back in Tucson, like they're not in Tucson to begin with? Where the hell are they getting the 12 hours from? Did they pull it out of a hat? You know what I did look up, Ashley? Because when Jim Fitzgerald was talking to that woman earlier, well, actually, she was talking about the second note at the time. She was talking about the things that we all bring up. Perished, buried in nature. And she said Now, Gary Brucato says they sound poetic, but she said something different. And I went, "Oh my God." And I had like this aha moment and I started Googling. She said, almost sounds theatrical. And I went, "Oh, theatrical. What if this shit came from a movie?" So I Googled it, like movie ransom notes. I was, Googling all kinds of, different ways to look it up. I love me some Google, just like Chat GPT. And it did come up with something that I found was interesting. I went, "Oh, hmm. Yes, it's like a screenplay." And someone before, and I actually think it was Chris McDonough, and I don't even remember, this was quite a while ago. I think it was him. Brought up the movie Ransom from 1996, I think it is. And it came up when I was doing my Google search earlier. The other thing that came up was the Jean Benet ransom note, but we won't go into that. But those are two of the things that came up. And when that woman said that, it kinda hit me and I went, "Oh, theatrical. That's interesting." So, that's another possibility. Um, I personally no, not in particular, Ashley. Um, I forgot what I was gonna say. Ashley threw me off. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. They discussed, like, and everybody said this, like, is it, AI? Did Chat GPT? Well, I don't know if anybody could use AI to write this because I tried to do something in GPT earlier when I was trying to prepare for this live and the ransom notes about it wouldn't even let, it was like, "It's against our policies." But it wouldn't let me. I was like, "Okay then, never mind." So, a lot of it does seem, the second one is, of course, more like theatrical or poetic. The first one is just there's too damn much of it there. It's DLR, doesn't look right. If payment is not received, here's the one that's not spelled properly. This received right here. If payment is not received, RECIEVED. Shame for shame. Can't even spell your ransom note properly. If it's not received by the last deadline, on Monday the 9th at 5 p.m., she will be killed. Your mother is aware of this and her life is in your hands. Well, no shit, she's aware of it. Come on. Uh, it, it just, what the hell? That's when I read that, I just like, what the hell? It just, her life is in your hands. That is probably the most threatening thing I see in this note. It is in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible. You will not be able to contact me. Here's where they screwed up. You will not be able to contact me. Doesn't say we or us, it says me. Screwed it up, didn't you, note writer? You'll not be able to contact me from here on out. There will be no negotiation. Do not play games. Law enforcement will not be able to help you. That's the truest statement in this whole damn note. Because apparently they can't help anyway, in general, when it comes to this case. God. Here's where my opinion on who wrote these notes really comes into play. And I want to see what you guys think. She had a white smartwatch, I know you've all heard this, on the floor. Now this isn't written right either. She had a white smartwatch on the foot. I can't even read properly. She had a white smartwatch on the floor of the foot of her bed. Does that make sense to you guys? If I was writing this, I would say she had a white smartwatch on the floor at the foot of her bed or near the foot of her bed. This says on the floor of the foot of the bed. And the white floodlight in the backyard was destroyed. So, that's the only sentence when it comes to the experts where they're saying, you know, that's the only thing that makes the note more credible because they're pointing out where her Apple Watch was. So my question is this. If it was on the floor and you in that location, and it seems like it was, if law enforcement is taking it seriously, there's not many options as to who would know that. The perpetrators, law enforcement, the family. Which one do you guys want to go with? I know what my pick is. And with my option, do those options become one? Just saying. It's my opinion. Amy's got it. She's got the option I have. Reporting parties. Table for one. Jail cell for two. They're the only ones that were in that house besides law enforcement. And they were there before law enforcement, if we're going to get technical about it. The only other option, there is another option, but it's a smaller kind of possibility. Depending on like depends on the bed and the window situation. So there is a sliding door off that little patio that has the wall around it that goes to Nancy's bedroom, but there also has to be a window unless she remodeled at some point. Because in that video, the video that when she was on the Today Show and she was showing how to make how she makes her bed, fold the corners in and the whole thing, there's a window there right next to her bed. Because when I saw that, when they came out with that and people were showing it, I was like, "Wait a minute. That's a window. That's not a sliding door. Why is it a Because I expected it to be a sliding door, and I'm looking at it. I wasn't even looking like, I looked at her, but then I kept getting drawn to the window. It I don't know. As far as I know, it was her bedroom. Yeah, and she had the curtain open, and it was dark outside because it was early, early morning. Um, and I'm like, "Wait a minute. That should be a sliding why isn't the sliding door there?" Because with her bedroom on that end of the house, it's the corner room. I don't think there would be a window anywhere else in that room because the other walls would be like interior walls. So the only thing I could think of was, well, maybe at some point after that, whatever year it was that she did that, when she was on the Today Show, like making her bed, um, maybe she had it remodeled and put the sliding, had the sliding glass door put in or the sliding door put in. Because I don't think there would be in like a window. I don't know. But the other option would be, or possibility, that if somebody looked in, but they would have had to look in there that morning before the reporting parties got there or in the middle of the night. They'd have to look like if they could see it was 2013. So she did have time to do that if she put in had it remodeled. The only other possibility would be if somebody managed to look in through the sliding door and saw the Apple Watch on the floor. It's the only other possibility I could think of besides law enforcement reporting parties. Just saying. But you know what? We don't know. We don't know. Oh my God. Okay. By the way, the email address for this first one, when Shanna posted that on X, when they had the oopsie before they redacted all this stuff, this email said savannah@gmail.com. Has anybody else seen those? Crime After Dark headquarters, we don't know. That's the email that was listed that the person put up here, savannah@gmail.com. The one down here for the second note said something like, I don't remember exactly. I think it said Guthries@gmail.com. I don't remember the name that was used, but I know the date of birth. They were like in the 80s, I think, and 90s. Made no sense. like they were trying to make the person really young. Or the person is really young because we don't know. I'm just speculating. So the second one, Guthrie family, we did not fully grasp the seriousness of her physical condition. She's 84. What the hell condition do you expect her to be in? Just saying. We never intended to hurt her. That was not our intention. She perished shortly after she was taken. See, look at all the we's. Now, this one is so much shorter than the first one. We did not fully grasp. We believe. We want your family. Just in this little short paragraph. We believe it was heart related. She is buried in nature now. Why would they believe? What would make them think it was heart related? Nothing you could have done could have changed the outcome. So up in the first note, it says, her life is in your hands. And in the second one, it says, there's nothing you could have done to change the outcome. We want your family to know this and hope you all can find peace. We are truly sorry. That's the biggest bunch of horse shit. My God. Just, yeah, we don't know, but we might. We might know if we're actually right about our suspicions. Okay. Moving on to some clips. So this one here is, you guys can't see it yet because I'm not sharing it. This one here is Jim Clemente. We're going to start with, oh, not yet. Not yet, Jim Clemente. I'm trying to find. Okay, I gotta share my other screen here. Hold on. Share a different screen. There we go. Does everybody see it? Does everybody see it? Okay, Ashley says yes. Jim. All right, let me.
Language. She will be released within 12 hours.
So they go over.
Going to write a note.
There's a lot of internal inconsistency. Obviously,
Okay.
That general.
We will be holding her for a max.
I'll say that there's a.
Man, he must have started this right. Okay, here we go.
I want to play for you my full conversation, retired FBI profiler Jim Clemente, who is going to dig into exactly what these mean. Hey Jim, it's nice to see you. I appreciate
How you doing, Brian?
You for joining me. I wanted to ask you about these notes because we knew sort of bits and pieces and we still don't have the full note, but we've known bits and pieces, we've reported bits and pieces, but this is really the best full picture we've had so far.
Yeah. It puts it in much better context, all the information that we had before. So I will say that there's a tremendous amount of information in these two notes.
And I want to kind of go through them with you in detail, starting with the first one, where the person writes, "Hello, Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe but scared. She will be held for ransom, and once payment is received, she will be released unharmed. We will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days." So that's the first part.
Right.
What stands out to you there?
Well, there's a whole bunch of things. "Hello, Savannah" that's a very strange salutation, and it's familiar. It is I think, an attempt to sort of convey, we know who you are. And the very next line, you're going to see something that you see throughout these letters, which is, "We have your mother, Nancy." Well, she knows that her mother's name is Nancy. She knows that Nancy is her mother. She doesn't need both words. There's a lot of superfluous language in this. And generally, ransom notes are very terse. We have your child. We have your loved one. We want this much money. This is how you get it to us. Don't call the police. That's generally what they say. But this is very different. First of all, of course, it was sent to the media. So immediately it's available to the police, which is very strange. And I've talked to you about that before. But this overselling, "She is safe but scared," those are obviously she's scared. Again, that's superfluous. Of course, Savannah would know that her mother is scared. She got woken up in the middle of the night by some stranger in a mask with a gun and dragged out of her house and then beaten and bloodied right on her front porch. Of course she's scared. She will be held for ransom. Will be held. This is the future. This is 2 days after she was taken. Why is it in the future? Why is it not, we have her, we're holding her? It's "will be held" is very unusual here. And then once payment is received, she'll be.
Exactly. Why is it in the future? And what did he say? I don't think I can even say that word. It's superfluous. Is that the word he used? Superfluous? It's so much extra that doesn't need to be there. And like he said, Ashley, I wonder if my headphones look that big on my head. Oh my god. Like I was saying about, well, of course Nancy would know what's going on. Like, why are you just gotta roll my eyes. Okay, let me continue.
Released unharmed. First of all, she's already been harmed. We know that she has been attacked, that she had blunt force trauma to the face, and by the blood stain patterns outside. So that's already a lie. But once payment is received, she will be released. This is how it works. Again, this is information they didn't have to convey, but they did. And then we will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days. Well, that's interesting because that directly contradicts what follows about the timeline that they give. And they say a maximum of 7 days, but then one of the deadlines is going to be the 9th, which is 8 days later. So there's a lot of internal inconsistency there. Again, part of that is because.
Did you guys notice that? I mean, they say 7 days. And so he's saying it's inconsistent which it is. It doesn't. DLR doesn't look
This
right.
is not some kind of professional. This is somebody who's bungling their way through this, and they're going to give away a lot more too.
Yeah, I mean, you made a few interesting points. We have your mother, Nancy. I'm just thinking if I was going to write a note like this, I wouldn't say your mother, Nancy. I would just say we have your mother.
Correct. Why? Or we have Nancy, because clearly Savannah, who this is addressed to, knows exactly who Nancy is, knows exactly who her mother is. Again, you're going to see this repeated over and over again.
And I'm going to get back to this question in a second, but I want to ask you, I'll ask you it again with another part that stood out to me. But do you think it, not like Chat GPT, but it almost seems like
it's very stilted language.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and later I think that also comes to
and maybe even like a non-English as a first language person or something who put it in a translator or something, you know?
Possibly, yeah. There are some weird things in here, yeah.
Now, a few of them said, actually, the woman it was either the woman or Jim Fitzgerald earlier was saying, she said, it's possible that that English is not their first language. But what she also said was they are very knowledgeable and like articulate. So what she's basically saying, like, it wouldn't be somebody like my boss is here. My boss, the Mad Dasher's here. We're discussing. The Mad Dasher here is my friend from Massachusetts. He is the Mad Dasher. He does live door dashing videos. Everybody. I forgot what I was saying because I saw that the Mad Dasher was here. The Mad Dasher's gracing me with his presence. Oh, but what she said was the person that wrote the notes, because this woman believes, well, and Jim Fitzgerald, that it was one person who wrote both notes, which I don't think that's. Hey, Lauren. Hi, Lauren. Lauren is his fiance. Oh, he's like my big supporter. He always supports me. And I always support him because I am his head security. Hi, Lauren. But what she said was they're very like because they were talking about AI. Did AI write it, or And she said possible, but she said I actually think the person who wrote this is very articulate, like educated. Possible that English is not their first language, but at the same time, they're very good at English. And I found that to be interesting. In terms of, well, I'm just going to say tomato. If you know, you know. Okay. I'm going to play this again.
Okay, so that's the first part. And then, this reporter didn't read the middle part verbatim, which like makes it a little difficult to take apart the whole note without kind of knowing the context of the middle. But she described the middle, which is basically what we always know, what we already knew. She said the note demanded 4 million in Bitcoin by 5 p.m. local time Thursday, February 5th, with the demand escalating to 6 million if the first deadline was missed, with a final deadline of 5 p.m. Monday, February 9th. And the money was demanded in USD. Well, two things. First of all, does the USD stand out to you?
Well, I don't know how the wording is important. I don't know how that was done because it's listed in Bitcoin, which is not US dollars, right? But Bitcoin is based on US dollars. So I think that it could either be somebody who isn't born in the US, or it's somebody who's trying to appear more intellectual, more lofty than they actually are. And they're going to be here and other places, they use big words, unnecessary repetition. And I think you're going to see that over and over again. This is something that we've seen in some notes that were legitimate, some notes that were not legitimate. So, but
Nice tomato. Nice tomato, Ashley. Okay, I'm going to try to skip to the second note.
At 5 p.m., she will be killed. It almost feels like they keep like kind of stating the obvious, but
the thing is, it's in your best interest and it's in our best interest. Why? It's a very, very bizarre way to put this.
And again, just seems like it's stating the obvious.
That's what the whole damn note does, basically.
Why would you do that when you have the opportunity to communicate directly with her? Or you could have left that note. If it wasn't an afterthought, you could have left that note at the scene.
That's what I've been saying. If it's truly from, I can't say that because it is truly from people involved. But if it was truly an actual real ransom note, why would you send it to a news station with a contact form instead of leaving something at Nancy's house? And you address it to Savannah, but instead of sending it to the news station where she used to work at one time, or to the Today Show where she works now, you send it to a different news station in Tucson. Make it make sense. Like, I keep saying that, like, why didn't they just leave it on the damn bed or, wherever? It doesn't make because that's not how a typical ransom note, a real one for money, would work. Joko, can you play where they talk about the 12 hours? Did I pass it? Where is that in the... Okay. Let me see if I can find it.
And they would have found it. They would have known about it. You could have said no law enforcement, and they may have been scared enough not to go to law enforcement.
Or they could have sent it directly to Savannah, like in, social media, whatever.
Right, but I don't know. I'm not certain how they would hide that if it would lead to more tracing. I don't know, but you're right. And not playing games could be just motivated on getting millions of dollars. It indicates that it may very well have been, because what in the end did they actually get? Can you do it one line at a time?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't go full. Yeah, we'll go.
I think I passed it.
The abductors, right? So what they're saying is it's in your best interest and it's in our best interest. Why? It's a very, very bizarre way to put of.
I gotta go back.
feminine. It's not new information, and her life is in your hands is projection. It is putting the blame on the victim's family
Still gotta go
versus
back.
putting the blame on, as saying, we will kill her. Thing they say is actually passive. They say she will be killed. They're not saying we will kill her. They're saying she will be killed, and that's a direct threat. It's
12 hours of deposit
Okay, here we
to
go.
a safe drop-off location back in Tucson.
Okay, so there's a lot of things here. Again, we have once payment is received, repeated. All right, and again, it's not necessary. They could have said, once the Bitcoin is in the account, we'll release her within 12 hours. We'll drop her off in a safe place. But they're trying to speak in a way that seems very, again, sort of lofty and posh, and not sort of baseline English language. She will be released within 12 hours. Obviously, that's an attempt to say that we're up to 12 hours away from where she was taken from. So we have to go a far distance to get there. I think that's obfuscation. That's trying to put it off. I think that's a complete lie. They wouldn't, if they were actually 12 hours away, then they wouldn't want people to know they were 12 hours away. All right. And so, and the back in Tucson is also an attempt to say, we're not there. That's not where we're from. So, again, I think it's to throw law enforcement off the scent.
I agree. Is that what what you're talking about, Joe? Back around the wire? Back around his wire. I'm confused. Oh, did you get it? All right. I want to skip to the second note real quick. It's back this way, or forward this way, I should say.
She perished shortly after she was taken. We believe it was heart related. Again, there's another we.
Okay, but she perished again, instead of died or passed, after she was taken. She was taken, not after we took her. Right? So this is another indication that it is somebody distance from the actual abduction. This is something that could seriously undermine the connection. All right. She perished shortly after she was taken. By who? By you? Why didn't you say after we took her? Why the difference? When you got we right before, you got we right after. And we believe it was heart related? What are you talking about? I think that she did die shortly after she was taken. But I think that was because the one person had to get back to the real world. There was some obligation they had, and they had her locked up somewhere. And when they came back, she was dead. That is.
Do you guys agree with that? I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. That she was locked up. Actually, I don't know what I think. I've tried to think about that. I have a hard time because I just don't want to think about it. I don't know. I've thought about it when I've thought like, well, where is she? What did they do with her? I don't think that because I don't think that it was actually a kidnapping for ransom in the typical way that, it's a kidnapping for ransom. I don't think yeah, I feel the same way, Ashley. I don't think they would have put her in a house somewhere or wherever, a building, whatever, because that wasn't their intention from the beginning. Their intent, if that was their intention from the beginning, they would have taken her medicine and all the things that she needed to keep her alive to get the money. But they didn't do any of those things. That's why the ransom note is just a bunch of bullshit, you know, because that wasn't their intention. Um, and Dr. Gary talks about that. And I agree with him. So it's like, no. Like, I still think she was probably alive when they took her out of the house, but I don't feel like they took her to a building or anything, and then it happened, at some point after that. I've never felt that. Maybe in the very beginning, I was like, "Oh my god," they probably took her, and put her somewhere in some building or shed or whatever, but I don't think that now. I just I don't.
Is indicated you when you feel excuse me, the indication here is that they were not there when her death occurred, and we believe it was heart related. If she had a heart attack and they were present for that, there's indicators typically. There's pain in the jaw, there's pain in the left arm, there's uh, pressure on the chest. There are things that could tell them what was going on. I don't think that this is the one part of these letters that really undermines the connection between the abduction and these letters and the demand for money.
The also perished is again a word that I don't know that I've ever used that word in conversation.
Right.
Or would ever even write that word.
Right. And I would say that this person wants to come off as being more intellectual than they actually are. They probably have a poor self-image, so they're trying to use big words. And they do have some either a thesaurus or access to AI to get these words. But when you say perished, and when you're trying to oversell who you are and your education level, you're actually indicating the opposite, which they don't really realize.
She is buried in nature now.
Okay,
Nothing.
stop.
Okay. Yeah, let's stop there.
Do you want to say it again?
No, it's okay.
Okay. So we've talked about this before. Not only does it say she is buried in nature, it says now. The now is, again, superfluous. You don't need to tell us that. Obviously, if you state she's buried, we know that it's now. But in nature is a very stilted way of stating that. When you bury someone, there's either earth burials or water burials. And to say in nature is just, again, like perished. It's not something I've ever said in my life, and you probably haven't either. And most people who are reading this haven't. So this is something that does indicate potentially some kind of translator or AI function. However, I do believe that it is also consistent with this. I want to overcomplicate. I want to appear smarter than I am. I want people to sort of look up to me. I want Savannah to look up to me.
That's that right there. What he just said. When I watched this originally, I went, that's interesting, Jim Clemente, because normally I don't really agree with him. Like, you know. But what he just said about the second note and how it sounds like I want someone to look up to me. I want Savannah to look up to me. And it was another aha moment for me. I went, "Oh, okay. I got it. Got it, Jim Clemente." Ashley just got it. Let's remember that Savannah is younger than Annie. You mean, well, I don't know. I might have heard you say it once or twice, MD. I might. Actually, there was a guy. They were going over. It was some other. I don't even remember the show. Something I ran across. There was 3, detectives, experts, whoever they were. They were talking about the notes and stuff. One of the guys was from England. And he literally said, yeah, he literally said parish. But he wasn't referring to that part of the ransom note. He just was like parish. And I went, this guy from England just used the word parish. And none of the other people said anything. Like they didn't even notice. And I went, wait a minute, this guy from England just said parish. Like, do people in England say it a lot? I don't know. Because I know they have different ways of saying things. Like they say lovely all the time when they, oh, that's lovely. I never say that. Hardly ever. I don't know. Just me, but when he was saying that, I want Savannah to look up to me. I want somebody to look up to me. It clicked. Because of who I think is responsible for this, it clicked. I went, okay. I understand here. It clicked. Okay. So now I'm gonna go to Dr. Gary Brucato because if I stay on this, we'll be here forever. Because as it is, I got to go to the other one. Dr. Gary's on the one with Sheriff Nanos. This was just a day ago. It was just yesterday.
Nancy Guthrie.
Oh, let me rewind. Oh, here is Luke Daly's lawyer. There's the Luke Daly raid. Oh, Brian Enton was talking about Luke Daly and when, his raid happened because Carlos, the other guy, the first guy that was detained, in case you haven't heard, is suing Pima County Sheriff's Department. So Brian Enton was talking about Luke Daly. I'm still going to be talking about Luke Daly. I haven't done it yet. It's coming. I will be discussing him for sure. Okay, so let me skip to Dr. Gary Brucato. I think all of you guys know, you're familiar with Yes, jealous sibling, White Tiger. People keep calling it the Marsha Brady syndrome. I, I had not heard that before either. I'm like, the Marsha Brady syndrome. Till somebody explained it. So, but anyway, I think you're all familiar. I think the only one not familiar with Dr. Gary Brucato is my friend MD. Pretty sure he's not, but the rest of you, I'm pretty sure you are. He's always on the interview room. He's always on. Well, he talks to Brian Etten quite a bit, and he's on the lab with Josh. So now I'm going to play the part where Brian talks to Dr. Gary and get his view of these ransom notes from a psychologist's perspective and not the FBI profiler like Jim Clemente. Because it is different, for sure.
As his whole profession is getting into the mind of criminals and understanding sort of interactions with them. So I want to play for you my
And he's also Ashley's favorite. Just wanted to point that out.
Conversation with him. Dr. Brucato, it's nice to see you. Thank you for joining me. I was thinking about you just because we've talked so much about Nancy Guthrie since early on. The first thing I wanted to ask you was just, what do you make of the 6-month mark? I mean, I know it's just a date, but I didn't think we would get to this point with so little progress, it seems.
Actually, in truth, when everything boils down to just something like DNA or data like that, it can take quite a while, particularly when you have DNA where there's a profile that has to be, deconvoluted and things like that. It can actually take quite a long time. That as a psychologist, I look back on and I think might have been little windows that could have been taken advantage of psychologically, that sort of fell by the wayside. That might have been useful, but I think in terms of just an investigation as they normally go, I'm actually not surprised that we're here.
What are those windows that stood out to you?
Well, I mean, for example, as we've discussed previously, these two ransom notes, although the second one isn't really a ransom note, that Savannah herself believes are real, do suggest to me two different people who are perhaps experiencing some kind of rupture in terms of their attitude about what happened. And I think that could have been milked by law enforcement in terms of going live and appealing to the author of the we didn't know she had a heart condition note, because whoever that person is, I think, was experiencing a desire to distance herself. I still think that was a she, herself, emotionally or even legally. And it would have been a very good idea, I think, at the time, all those months ago, to appeal to that individual.
So you still think there's multiple people involved in what that the notes were written by? The first note, which was kind of more aggressive, obviously, the second note, which was more sympathetic, are different people.
Yes, I believe that there are at least three psychologies involved. Porch guy, who I do not think wrote either of those notes, who I think is clear was some sort of goon that was just sort of put there to give the impression of a totally outside agent, who never met this woman, who came in to do this and to do the dirty work, to do the, and who I think looks like he's had a run-in or two with the law before, perhaps even drugs, and
a goon, porch guy, the goon. Yeah, Ashley, I always know when he's in his car, not a rental car, because I know the color of the interior. But anyway, so Dr. Gary's perspective, what he thinks is complete. The profilers think it's the same person that wrote the first note and the second note, where Dr. Gary believes there's multiple people, the porch guy, and then 2 different people writing the notes. He doesn't even feel the porch guy wrote any of the notes, and I don't think he wrote any of the notes either. My son looked it up. What Mexican journalist use this word frequently in news reports, perished. So what do you think, Joe? Do you think they're trying to make people think they're in Mexico? I can't say the Spanish word, girl. I don't speak Spanish. Well, I speak a few Spanish words, some slang Spanish. My great niece and nephew call me Titi Lisa, which is a Puerto Rican thing. I know grandma and grandpa. That's about it. I think you have a different view, Joe, on who the perps are than I do. Because the people that I feel are the perps are not Mexican. But we don't know, do we? We don't know. We don't know. I'm going by following the bouncing ball of who saw her last, who called 911, who gave 80% of the info to law enforcement in Savannah. And also some of what Dr. Gary says here. Let me go back to this. Otherwise, I'll start talking and I'll never get back to it. I had to leave for a minute there to go to the bathroom. Anyway.
And comes across as really quite a cool-headed character under pressure, because I don't think this is his first rodeo with doing something nasty. But the other two characters, the one who wrote that first note, which is demanding the money, who is, I think, even just from the message, more intelligent than the person we see on that camera, comes across as much more scheming and manipulative. And the person who wrote that second note, who I think has a more emotional quality and perhaps knows Savannah and feels some modicum of sympathy or wants to distance themselves, I think are 3 different people who were involved in different degrees. And I've said from the beginning that I believe that when this is all, cleared up, and I think it will be, we'll see that there was a person who did the deed, who I've called the waiter, who served it, and I think that's Porch Guy. And behind the scenes, I think there are at least 2 people with different psychologies and motives.
If there's multiple people, are you surprised at this point they haven't turned on each other, that someone hasn't ratted the other out?
Well, I think that if Porch Guy gets arrested, I think Porch Guy would be easily reasoned with that. You can turn everybody else in, or else, you're in a lot of trouble. And I think that is the kind of person who is probably pragmatic enough to just say, fine. Regarding the people that are behind the curtain, I think there's something in that dynamic that is a little bit more complicated than we understand. For example, when I look at that note, the one that was written with the modicum of sympathy and the distancing, it seems to me that a risk was taken in writing that, because it would have been written from the same place that the first one was written. But the first one is demanding money, and the second one is undoing the ability of the first person to get money, which suggests to me that the first person would have been kind of mad that the second person wrote the note. So why would they do it? Why would they take that risk? So there's something going on in that dynamic that's causing a rupture, and yet for some reason no one's come forward. So this suggests 2 people that are bonded together somehow in a secret or some kind of emotional dynamic, but they have different psychologies and different feelings about what happened.
I agree, Dr. Gary. I totally agree with what he just said. Because all the experts have said about the second note that because it's apologetic, we're sorry, she perished. She's buried in nature. We didn't know she had, a heart condition, blah, blah, blah. They said it's because the writer of that note is trying to distance themselves from what's been done to Nancy out of, guilt. And because it's so emotional in nature, Dr. Gary is saying that that person probably has a real personal connection to Savannah. The other thing I always keep in mind are the stats that 92% of women that are killed know the person who killed them. 92%. Kidnappings are rare in general in the United States, and there's less than 400 people over the age of 75 a year who are kidnapped / abducted. Under 400 a year. That's always in the back of my head when I'm thinking about, different possibilities, who did this, etc. There was just a story I came across earlier on YouTube. It was from North Carolina. A woman had been kidnapped. I think she was like in her 40s, mid 40s or something. They had been looking for her for a day or so. Wasn't that long. And I start to watch that video, and then I noticed the video below it said that they found her body. And the news station said the guy who did it, she knew the guy, that she had worked with him before. Like, she didn't work with him now, but she had worked with him previously. So he's like a previous, coworker. So she knew the guy. And I thought, my God, that situation with that poor woman happened that fast. That fast. He kidnapped her, but then I guess he just took her and immediately, killed her. That's why this whole Nancy Guthrie case is just, it's just all screwed up. It's not something that happens. It's rare. Okay, let me go back to Dr. Gary because I'm starting to rant. I'm starting to rant.
And that's, I think, something that could have been milked.
You talk about windows that could have been used as opportunities for law enforcement. Do you think this latest Savannah video that we saw, where she said she had this specific message and was clearly talking to the person or people who wrote these notes, are they trying to, it seemed very strategic to me. I mean, it didn't just seem like Savannah popped on and was, just suddenly speaking from the heart. It seemed almost like the earlier messages from her where the words were chosen carefully. Do you think law enforcement is specifically trying to open another one of these windows?
Well, let's put it this way. If it was a complete coincidence and she just decided to do that on her own, which is entirely possible, I don't think she could have done a better job of phrasing it in the way that one would advise her to do, right? Because what I think she did there was very similar to what you would do if, let's say, you had, I don't know, a couple or friends or whatever that you think were involved together in some kind of deed. You have to rupture them. Well, what you do is you isolate one of them and you say something like, look, I think you had no taste for this. I think that you got caught up in this because you were scared. I think you got pressured into this. I think you're a little scared of this person, I think that, etc. and you kind of give the person an opportunity to kind of come forward and say, look, this is what motivated this, but I really didn't want this to go so far, and now I'm scared, and everything is because one of the people in the story is usually more cruel and psychopathic, and one is just sort of sucked into it and goes along with it. And you have to break that person away from the nastier character. And I think that there would have been an opportunity. And when, I think when Savannah said those things, I mean, I think they were sent directly to the ear of whoever I think that party is. Because it's true that there's a longing almost in that message to say, look, I want you to have some closure. It's bothering me that, you might think you did something. There's nothing you could have done, that kind of thing. I understand the idea of legal distancing, but why take the risk to send that?
Exactly. Why take the risk? Like just the first note was a risk, let alone the second note. Then that's another risk. Just to say like, oh, well, she perished and she's buried in nature now. There's nothing you could have done. Blah, blah. And I don't think someone would take the second risk unless they had an emotional connection. So you would take a risk, someone would take a risk for a bunch of money, which, that's what they did when they took Nancy to begin with. And let's say the first ransom note, which I don't even like calling it a ransom note because that's not what it is to me. And then you're going to send a second note. So you're adding on to you're doubling the risk. If it's the same person, I don't feel like it's the same person. I think that the notes are two different people working together, but two different people, like Dr. Gary Brucato was saying. So I think it's more likely that someone would take a risk if they have that emotional connection, to Savannah. That's my opinion anyway. Okay, let me see. There's not much left here.
If some emotion wasn't overwhelming you, and when you're overwhelmed by emotion, just a little bit of pressure, you could pop because you're looking
That's
for
me.
relief. Problem is those notes were a long time ago, and this message from Savannah is coming now. So I was fascinated by it because it wasn't long after, I've been talking about these notes. I said to myself, boy, I wish I would have said something earlier. Maybe I could have given somebody the idea a long time ago, but I think it's just a coincidence that someone had the same idea. You know what I mean? But it would have been helpful probably.
So when you saw her message, it does seem to kind of play into your theory of there could be multiple people and she's trying to pull one of them away from the other, pull the sympathetic one away from the other.
Entirely. Or it could just be that she believes that whoever did it acted alone and is experiencing some kind of guilt or sympathy. But the problem is, I don't think anybody could read those two notes and think it makes sense that they were written by the same person. They don't even sound like they were written by the same person. And the florid language of the second one is nothing like the mechanical tone of the first. And as I said, sending the second message completely undoes the purpose of the first message.
So see, his view is completely opposite of Jim Clemente and Jim Fitzgerald. Guilt is present. What perp would feel that? Who would feel that? Yeah. Porch guy doesn't feel any guilt. Like he just was getting paid to do a job. Because I don't feel, I feel he is the waiter and that there's a chef somewhere controlling everything. Oh, there it went. I was about to say, where'd it go? And I don't feel the porch guy has any kind of emotional connection whatsoever. When I was kidnapped, there's those guys that held guns to our heads. I'm going to get in trouble from YouTube. There was no guilt. None. They were all about the money, and they came in and did what they had to do, you know, to get my dad to get money from the grocery store that he worked at. That was all that they wanted. That was all they cared about. And they did it quickly. They didn't screw around. You know, they were not nice. they did not have guilt. Not one shred. They were just doing what they were doing to get money. Period. Never would they have even remotely said anything like that second note. Courtney's here. Oh, Courtney's here. Your crunchies have been here, Courtney. Your crunchies have been hanging out here and there, coming and going. Yay. We're just, I thought you were asleep. I didn't even know you were still awake, girl. Thought you passed out. We've been talking ransom notes, of course, and I know this is backwards on my showing different on my YouTube. We're talking the psychology of it now. Before I was showing Jim Clemente, now I got Dr. Gary on. Because I was telling these guys earlier, Courtney, that Jim Clemente and Jim Fitzgerald both think that the note writer is the one person, where Dr. Gary feels like it's two people. Ashley, Dr. G just put me to sleep, but I'm awake. Just admit how much you love him. I know you're going to do that. Just admit it. Just admit it. Don't struggle anymore. Just admit it and get it over with. But I thought that was when I heard Jim Fitzgerald and this other woman earlier say, "Oh, we think it's the same person who wrote the notes." I was like, "What?" Like, I actually went into shock. Like, how can you feel that it's one person? Yeah, he's out because I remember. I think isn't he still on like the Savannah stalker theory? I heard him say that way back when Brian was in Tucson and he talked to Jim Clemente. I think it was the first time actually I'd ever seen him. And I went, I don't agree with that at all. I don't think it was a stalker. But I found it interesting that he thinks it's one person, and so does Jim Clemente, or not Jim Clemente. He is Jim Clemente, duh. Jim Fitzgerald. When I watched him earlier on his podcast with this woman who I don't even know who she was because I turned it on late, but they both said one person, and I found that shocking. So like the profilers think it's one person, and Dr. Gary thinks 2 people. So I've been like, we're just been like comparing the differences between the 2. Let me turn. CS wants to hear this, so let me hit play.
Which is precisely why I infer that there was a rupture.
Jim Clemente, who I interviewed a couple days ago, retired FBI profiler, he kind of has the opposite theory of you in terms of he thinks it is one person. And he thinks, with the we and the R kind of making it sound like multiple. And then when in the second note, there was one me instead of those,
Right.
we are, he thinks that was a mistake, which indicates that,
Right.
That the person is one person, but was trying to make it seem like multiple people. And could that have also, maybe that's why they tried to sound different in the different letters, possibly? Like, do you think there's any chance that could be the case?
It's possible. I mean, I'm a big believer that people have different hypotheses, and you don't know what's true until later, right? I mean, it's entirely possible. But and I respect other people's ideas. But my sense is that even just from a glimpse of Porch Guy in comparison with that second note, it's almost impossible to believe that those were produced by the same psychology. I think that the reason for the me is that the person who wrote that second note was having an emotion that was not shared by the other people that were involved in this matter. And I think it was very revealing to kind of be like, I alone am experiencing guilt or fear that these other characters are not. And, I think whatever motivated this was chiefly financial. But in order to get people to go along with it, they all have to have their own motivations, and you have to prey on them. And for Porch Guy, it was probably money. But whoever this second note, whatever, I think there was something else. It was money and something else, emotion, some kind of thing that was preyed upon. And then the person regretted it because it all went up in smoke. I mean, ultimately, nobody got anything out of this. The way this is going to feel to a basically normal individual, not a psychopath, but a basically normal individual, is like the way you would feel if you put all your money into a slot machine and it went up in smoke. And now you're looking at it going like, what was I thinking? I got nothing. And now on top of it, I'm even more in more trouble than I was to begin with, that kind of thing. And I think that regret feeling, that even from a practical level, forget about the emotional, that you might have in some way known this victim, it is something that needs to be taken advantage of from the perspective of pressure on that individual to finally say, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to throw everybody else under the bus. I need redemption.
You guys think somebody's going to lose their cool? Like, rupture under the pressure? He's saying they didn't get anything out of it, but I disagree because of who I think it is. They definitely did get something out of it. They didn't get the Bitcoin money, but they definitely getting something out of it. I do. I actually do disagree with it. Well, because of who I think it is, he doesn't cast aspersions, Ashley. he doesn't cast aspersions. Well, yeah, they got attention and freedom. They got some freedom. Cast aspersions. It's a common phrase for Dr. G. Freedom from being caretakers. As Dr. Gary said before, that he thought Savannah's Instagram post today threw me through. You know what, Courtney? It pissed me off. When I got to the very end of it, I was pissed off. I was so, Yeah, that was the first thing I talked about, because it made me so angry. Um, yeah, don't get yeah, she's getting me started again. I was so angry. You know, literally the first thing I thought of when I woke up this morning was about Nancy, like, oh, 6 months. The very first thing. And like I said before, she doesn't know why people, you know, watch things that have to do with Nancy's disappearance. Like, she doesn't know why they do it or what they're feeling or any of that. Okay, see, I'm starting again. Have to calm down. Okay, I'm gonna go back to Dr. Gary so I can calm down. Cause I will. I'll start I'll start ranting again.
Need closure. I need to not be afraid of the law.
Yeah,
And they will get caught.
you talk about pressure. If you were advising
We
the
hope they get
FBI,
caught.
so she did this video last week. What now? What do you do now? I mean, should she keep doing targeted videos? Does it just need to be, you need to be pounding this person so they can't ignore it, or do you take a break for, like, what do you do next?
Well, if, let's say, for example, there is somebody or some little group of people that they are secretly aware might be involved, but they're keeping their mouth shut and kind of keeping them on a long lead, I think you say so. You say, listen, we're not going to be specific here, but we've got our eye on who this is, and we're pretty confident. And this is your chance to say something before you're charged, that kind of thing. Because I think that ultimately fear is a very powerful force for a person with an intact limbic system. For a psychopathic person, it doesn't do much, right? That kind of person only gets scared if you insult their ego, but they don't get upset, that is to say reactive, but they don't get reactive of fear of getting in trouble or getting hurt physically or something like that. But the person who wrote that second note is having some real feelings, and whether it's fear or sympathy or guilt or something, and that has to be preyed upon. The only way to do that is repetition and putting it out there that the facts are starting to point clearly to somebody, and let that person know that they better hurry up and say something.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about fear, how you can use that.
Of course.
That's really, it's so do you envision in your mind that the people involved in this, or the person involved in this, is just back at their job, like just going about their everyday life, has a like,
I think that Porch Guy, who knows if Porch Guy even has a job? Porch Guy is a kind of, is just somebody that I think was sort of approached and who has a background like that, probably. And I don't know if that's a person who would be gainfully employed. And by the way, does that look like someone with fear? I don't think so. So whoever Porch Guy is just a kind of a parasite. But as far as the people that I think are behind the thing, yeah, these are probably intelligent people who can be basically high functioning, who have to be able to lead some kind of double life. That's the whole point of using, an intermediary and hiding behind a curtain, right? So I think
Hiding behind hoodies and t-shirts. Bye, Courtney. Thank you for coming in. Second note equals self-directed. Moral injury. When your own actions severely violate your personal ethical code. Yeah, I agree, White Tiger. I just think people have just been in hiding. Been in hiding. Post-incident behavior. along with the porch guy who I still feel is Luke, just my personal opinion, and I'll talk about that when I talk about him another time.
Such people would probably go about their business. But one of them is just thinking, boy, how are we going to get away with this now? The person I was doing this with screwed us because now nobody's going to give us any money and we can't do anything because everybody's watching everything going on. And the other one is probably being tormented by fear and emotion. And that's why I think it's only a matter of time. It's reminiscent, actually, of the different emotional reactions that you see, for example, in the characters in Macbeth. They've committed a terrible deed together, and one is having a totally neurotic reaction, and the other one loses contact with reality, but they've committed the same deed. People have different ways of dealing with emotional stuff, and but anyway, so yeah, I think they're going about their business.
Really appreciate Dr. Brucato for taking the time to talk with me.
So there we have it. When did Savannah know? See, I've always wondered, like, I wonder what the FBI says to Savannah. Like, if they update her, if they, if they would say, which I don't know. The way they operate, I don't think they would say, like, we think so and so did this. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just don't think they would do that. Because I've, through all the documentaries and everything that I've watched, and heard from different people, they all usually say, like, the FBI even keeps them out of the dark, even though they're like, the victims' families. The FBI doesn't seem to share much, even with the victim's family. At least that's how I take it. So I don't necessarily. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're helping her with the when she does the videos and stuff. The Instagram post, I don't know. I don't know. The Instagram post, I kind of just took that as her without getting any, advice or help from the FBI, the BAU, whoever. I just took it as her, kind of just, as all of that coming from her without any help from anybody. I don't know. Could be wrong. I don't know. The videos, yeah, I think they do help her when she does the videos, and they, was probably because I think they did say the video the other day she did communicate with, the FBI before she did it. But I don't know if she would do that with her Instagram post. It's just always bothered me that why are you only doing this on Instagram? You want to find your mother. Why are you only doing it on Instagram? Why aren't you doing it on, all the major news stations, everywhere? Come on, you're Savannah Guthrie. Could you not, you know, do it elsewhere to get more exposure? Not everybody's watching Insta. I mean, she might have Instagram hooked to Facebook. I have no idea. Um, yeah, every social media site, everywhere. Uh, sh- Hell, she could make her own YouTube channel and that thing would spread. So the fact that she's only ever done this on Instagram has always been really strange to me. I mean, I know she has like millions of followers, but still, not everybody watches or watches. Not everybody, uses Instagram. So you're kind of cutting down. Okay, so you do Instagram and then you did, the interview with Hoda. I don't know. That's just how I see it. I think it's just limiting that she's only, she's always putting out the videos and stuff on Instagram. So I don't know. It's just, I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. I was cracking up when I made that graphic earlier. When I put that into Chat GPT, I was cracking up. It's like, hey, Chat GPT, make this graphic of me, and I don't know. If Nancy showed up tomorrow, how would the kids explain all of this? No, sir. I don't know. I don't know. It just I thought it was funny. Um I don't know. All of it is just so we don't know. We don't know. Um it's just all frustrating. None of it is, and maybe none of it as far as Savannah and only with the Instagram and whatever, I don't know. I always try to think like, well, maybe it just seems weird because she's on the Today Show. It's not just a regular person, I'll say, even though she is a regular person, but you know what I mean. She's not somebody that's not in the public eye. And then I try to think of like, what if it was someone else in the pub? What if it was someone from another morning show or television show or whatever? I wonder how they would be doing things. And it has nothing to do with like I never I was familiar with Savannah Guthrie before this, but I don't watch the Today Show. But like I'd seen her face before. You I don't know, you just run across stories and they'll have different, people like that in them. So I knew her face. I sort of knew who she was, but I don't watch the Today Show. So I was like, I knew of her, but I didn't watch her, you know. So I always watch ABC stuff and morning stuff, ABC. Um but I always wonder how other people would handle the same situation. Um there's no way to know. And I know she's grieving. It's not about getting on this woman who's grieving. I get that. I can't even imagine what she's going through. I just think some of the Ashley, I watch the back of my eyelids in the morning. It's just some of the way that these things have been done. You're posting on Instagram and then, you do one interview with a Hoda that's split up into 3 days or whatever, 3 parts, 3 days, something, to that effect. Um, if it were me, I'd be doing that videos and, posting everywhere. That's just me. Um, I also wouldn't be saying my mom walked away knowing that she couldn't. Um, there's just so much in this case that it's like it's all a mess, all of it, every single bit of it, and it's sad because she's still suffering, you know, because of Nanos and all of that stuff that's going on. You know, the turf war between him and the FBI, um, and things that weren't done right in the beginning, and things that still aren't being done right. I mean, I know these notes. I know the only reason that these notes were released from Sheriff Nanos was because of Brianna releasing them last week or whenever the hell, whatever day it was. Otherwise, I don't think he would have done it. And it's, and then Savannah posts a video, and it's almost like her and Sheriff Nanos are like ping ponging back and forth, because then he'll say something and he's talking about nobody's a suspect. Everybody's a suspect, or everybody, nobody's cleared. Everybody's, the family's clear. Back and forth and back and forth. She mentioned everybody in her post this morning, her husband, Annie and Tommaso, Cameron and his wife. And then I see a video from the sheriff this morning that was done. I don't know. I don't even know who he was talking to. You can't see the woman. But the sheriff's department posted it, and he's saying the family has never been a suspect. They still are not suspects. When just a day or two ago, or an interview ago, or whenever the hell it was, he was saying nobody's cleared. Nobody. So I think a lot of what he's done and still does is just, well, not anymore because Savannah doesn't talk to him anymore. But I think in the beginning, a lot of it was just pressure from Savannah, pressure from Mark Kelly, pressure coming from, every which direction, that he didn't handle it well. So I think the ransom notes should have come out a long time ago, but they weren't. But so hopefully things will get better. We can all pray that they will. But I'm gonna get off here, guys. Thank you so much for spending time with me, going over the ransom notes, watching clips of Jim and Dr. Gary. And that's White Tiger. I believe that was the purpose of the second note. Because the second note was an even bigger risk than the first, but the second note could possibly be used as a declaration of death, saying, oh, look, the kidnapper right here said that she died. There's the declaration of death needed. So I agree with that. I do agree with that. So anyway, guys, thank you everybody for hanging out with me. Please come back if this wasn't too horrible. I'm just saying. I'm glad Courtney stopped by though. That was nice of her to pop in. And next time, I don't know, I think next time I will be talking about Luke Daly. There'll be another rant oncoming when I talk about Luke Daly. So just a warning now. It's a pre-warning if you're here. There'll be a lot of stuff I'll be saying about Luke Daly. Things are getting interesting with him too. He has to give up some DNA and has a court date in August. This is August. Middle of August. I think the 18th, somewhere in there. But anyway, thanks guys for hanging out with me. Take care. We will see you the next time, and hopefully things will look up when it comes to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. See you guys later. Have a good one.